So for today's sequence, we're going to be doing a yoga sequence, which is Pawanmuktasana. We're going to be doing Series 1. It's a little known sequence, but it's all about mobilizing the joints. So we basically work through all of the body and do a series of exercises which get the joints moving, get them mobilized. And it's great as a warm-up, or if you're feeling a little bit stiff in the joints, to kind of get everything moving. And we start off in yoga staff position, so just bringing it into that Dandasana seated position where your spine is upright. If it feels a little bit awkward as you go through and you start to kind of round, you can take a break, pause the video, or just bring your hands behind and just kind of not pushing down into the floor and lifting the seat, but just using your hands behind just to kind of recreate that length in your spine and sit tall. Otherwise you're going to be hands behind, or you can bring your hands onto your knees. And we start down at the toes, down at the feet. And we're just going to pull the toes back, so not pulling the ankles back, but just focusing just on the toes. Pull the toes back and then scrunch them forward. Pull back and scrunch forward. And even trying to maybe sprag out the toes, do that little wave of the toes. So really trying to get the toes moving on their own. It's often neglected part of the body, but quite important for our balance and posture. And then we'll let that movement come then up into the ankle. So pointing down, plantar flexion, and then pulling the toes back, pulling the feet back to push into the heels, dorsiflexion. So plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, and really feeling that move into the ankles. For each of these, I want to be aiming to do 5-ish repetitions. I might do a few more as we go through and as I'm talking, but as a minimum. But if it feels right, just keep them going, just till you get that little release and mobility feeling in the joints. And then we're going to take it into rotation. So rotating the ankles round one way. Might be able to hear my ankles popping and cracking. And then back round in the other direction. And if you've got the mind-body control, you can do one way, one the other. And then back in the other direction. And then we're going to come into an ankle crank. So just drawing the foot up onto the upper thigh. You're going to take hold of your toes with your hand, the other hand on the shin, and we're just going to gently wind that ankle round now. So basically doing what we've just done with the rotation, probably my ankle cracking, but taking a little bit further. So you're doing this passively. You're moving the ankle round rather than the muscles taking the ankle round, and then back in the other direction. And it just helps open out that ankle joint that a little bit deeper, and getting full mobility into the ankle. And then when you're ready, change sides, do the opposite side. You can bring the breath in a little bit with this, so one cycle of the rotation could be one breath. It becomes a little bit more important as we kind of get into different parts of the series. So don't worry too much if you can't synchronize the breath. If you're doing Pawanmuktasana to the book, you would synchronize the breath. And then we're going to come into flexion and extension of the knee. So just drawing one knee up, just holding and gripping just above the knee, just on the back of the thigh there. Take a breath in, sit tall, and then just extend the foot away, kicking away with the heel. So push the heel away, and then draw the knee back into the chest, and then extend. Starting low, so the foot, if you notice, is just a couple of inches off the mat as I kick away. But then as both the hip joint and the knee joint start to kind of warm up, you might be able to kick that a little bit higher and feel a bit of a stretch then also into your hamstring. So warming up the muscles as well as working into the joints with this exercise. And you might be able to hear just the synovial fluid in the knee joint just starting to creak a little bit as we warm up. And then change sides, so draw the opposite knee in. Again, start low. Don't want to work too quickly into the hip joint. Just feeling your way into the exercise as always, working at your own level. Or eventually starting to work up that a little bit higher as you kick the foot away. This is a great one to start bringing the breath in. So breathe in as you pull the knee into the chest. Exhale as you keep the heel away. And then a challenge, but then is to do that with both legs. So taking the hands behind the knees. You're probably going to need to pivot back a little bit to balance on your sacrum. So floating onto the heel, so just bring the heels just off the floor. And then straighten out both legs. Come back into that tuck position. Straighten out both legs. So you can start to engage the core, so we're working the muscles of the abs as well, and the hip flexors as we take in this level. Not for everybody, it's just for you to stay at the single leg, just stay with the single leg. And we're going to go into half butterfly. So again, drawing a foot up, placing the foot on the thigh. It's going to sit tall. So I have one hand on the ankle, the opposite hand on the knee, and you're going to draw the knee up in towards the chest or the shoulder, and then let that knee fall away just to its natural position, but then just give it a little bit of a bounce. So there should be like a bit of springiness in that kind of joint at the end zone, and drawing the knee back up. Exhale as you push it away, so breathe in, exhale. Just giving it a little bounce into that hinge zone. You should feel this again opening out into your hip, maybe stretching a little bit into your adductors as well. And then we're going to change. So opposite leg, the foot just rests just above the knee on the inner thigh. Draw the knee into the chest, and then that little bounce away. If it's uncomfortable, it doesn't need to be much of a push. You're not really pushing down, it's just bouncing a little bit into that springy end zone. Nice and easy. Just one or two more. And then we're going to take it into full butterfly. So drawing the feet together, just wherever feels comfortable for you, that you can maintain an upright spine, reach forward slightly, so a little bit of extension into the back, a little bit of flexion into the back, which nice easy kind of grip around the toes, and then just waggling the knees. Again, you're working into that springy end zone, so not pushing the knees down at this stage. And aim to do about 30 repetitions, and again you should feel that opening out into your hips. And then we're going to start to just work this a little bit deeper. So I want to pull the knees in, so you pull them into your chest, and then taking hold of the ankles, you can use the elbows then, just sit tall, and just to kind of push down, push the knees away. Pull the knees back in, and then push the knees away. So now you really feel that you're trying to stretch into the hip. You might feel your adductors being stretched as well. Great one for opening out the hips. And ideally the knees should come flat to the floor. Most people have a bit of a restriction there, as I do. One or two more. And then we're going to come back to Dandasana. So straighten out the legs. Sit tall. Just reset. Then we're going to start to work up into the hands. So to take your hands out in front and really sprag out your fingers, and pretty much like we started with the toes, we're going to start with the fingers. So just tucking your thumb in and then gripping around, create a little fist around your thumb, and then sprag the fingers out again. Create that thumb in, grip round, sprag. So really trying to get full flexion and extension into your fingers. And then we'll work up into the wrists. So take your hands level, palms down, Do a palmar flexion and then dorsiflexion of the hand at the wrist. Again, trying to get full movement, really trying to get full 180 degrees movement. Notice if you've got any restrictions or how that feels. And then we'll take it into rotation, so rotating the hands round and going counterclockwise, counter rotating here, so one goes one way, one goes the other. If you can sync them, and then take it back in the other direction. And then just shake out your fingers, shake out your wrists. Going to work up into the elbows, so palms up, and then just bring the fingertips back onto your shoulders, and then straighten out. So working flexion, extension of the elbow. One or two more. So bring the elbows together in front and then circle them all the way around, making that circle as big as you possibly can. Really working around. You might feel the shoulders just crunching and grinding a little bit as you work that in. And then taking it back in the other direction. Big movement into the shoulders. And then we come into the neck. So this is where you can kind of just give yourself a little bit of relief of the pressure into the back by just putting your hands behind, sit tall. And we're just going to start with simple tucks. So again, trying to keep the length of the neck, so not dropping the head forward. We're just literally rolling the chin down onto the chest and then lifting. Tucking the chin onto the chest and then lifting. Feel the stretch down the back of the neck. Trying to relax the shoulders down in this position as well so you can get full movement there. And then rotations. So turning the head, the chin towards one shoulder, back into the middle, and then over to the other side. And then little lateral flexes at the neck, so bringing the ear down towards the shoulder, one side and then the other, feeling that lateral stretch down the side of the neck. And then ragdolling, just sort of rolling the head down the front of the body. This is when all the popping and cracking is released in the neck. And then from there, just roll down onto the floor. Come into Shavasana. And just take a few minutes just to let the body settle, just enjoy the release of all the tension from the joints. Close your eyes and just take a few minutes just to relax before you go about the rest of your routine or the rest of your day.